So to get started with Adobe InDesign, first you're going to hit New File, and then you got a couple different options to choose from. Let's change our units to inches, and then you got you can change the margins, the bleed and slug, add facing pages if you want that, but usually you need that ahead of time if you want that. But yeah, let's just hit create and just go from there. We also change those options later. So here's our first view of InDesign. Usually Adobe likes to put you in the Essentials workspace, which I think is okay, but I just think it lacks a lot of features. Like especially the top menu bar, I feel like that's pretty important to have. So let's add Essentials Classic back in, and this is more customized to what I have. I have character, paragraph panels right here, and also I have my paragraph and character styles. I have pages, layers, and links. These are pretty correlated to each other. And then here I have some swatches, color, and text wrap options. So let's go over some of the options. We got some tools, pretty important, like the selection. You got some text, you got some rectangles, shapes, and eyedropper. Those are pretty much the main ones I use here. With this, you can also change our margins and columns. So let's make our margins a little bit smaller, 0.75 inches. Don't really need 2 columns, so we'll just keep this where it's at. And we can also create some guides if you want that, like that. But I don't really need that. You can also bring them from the top ruler itself if you're trying to measure or line up things. Pretty handy. So let's get rid of those. And yeah, let's start adding some things into InDesign. So we got our text tool. Let's drag in something right here. And we're gonna add some placeholder text. Now with that, we're gonna mess with this a little bit. So let's go and add some more styling. So we're gonna add rock grotesque in here. Trying to find a nice font. Let's go with the light version. And 12-point font's good. So with this, you got a couple different options with the paragraph panel. Let's add some more spacing between each paragraph, and let's make all this left justified, and let's get rid of hyphenation. So this is looking pretty good so far. Some quick shortcuts. If you your documents see this red plus icon, that means you have some overset text. If you just double click on that, it'll expand out to how deep it actually is. Let's get rid of a couple of these lines right here, and then we're gonna double click the bottom to shrink it back. All right, so this is good. Got some also alignment on top right if you ever need it, if you want it. So if you go to page or spread, so let's go page, and then you can also do it this way. So now that we have that, let's add some images. I like to use this frame tool sometimes to kind of mock up where I'm gonna put things. So let's put it right here. We're gonna add in an image, so let's drag it over from our desktop, and it's gonna pop in right here. Now it looks a little low quality. It's not your screen that's bugging, it's just InDesign's way of rendering it. So let's go under view, and then we're gonna go under screen, or actually not screen, display performance. Getting ahead of myself. So this is typical display. This shows everything at a lower resolution. So let's switch this to a high quality display. Just more, I have the bandwidth basically to hold this, because InDesign can get pretty complicated. The more images you add, and you have hundreds of pages of in a document. So now let's go under fitting, because I'm not liking how this is starting out. We got proportionally, I can fill the frame or fit content, fit frame to content, or fit content to frame. Let's do content where fit. Let's see how that goes. That's pretty good. Yeah, I'm liking that. So let's add another text box, and we're gonna make it nice header. So let's drag it in. We're gonna align it a little better. Let's call this the 2026 Yankees preview. So let's highlight that, and let's make this rock grotesque again. Probably go with maybe a black font, and we're gonna increase the size about 36. Take out hyphenation. We're gonna expand this out. Looking great right here. Begin mess with a little bit more. So now we're getting somewhere right now. So let's add another image in. So let's get a box right here, because we're gonna wrap some text around this image. So let's drag in a Photoshop file, and it's gonna fit in right here. Let's shrink this down. If you hold Alt and Shift on Windows, you're able to mess with the image, because InDesign has the image itself, this is like the frame almost, and then within the image, once you double click it, you can change the image within the frame. Now it signifies that with the orange outline. So right now I'm editing the image itself within the frame, not the frame itself. When it's blue, this is the frame itself. You can see the image is not changing, only the outer frame, but here, this is the image frame within itself. So now we gotta get our quill down here, and let's change how the text goes around. Let's add a wrap around the bounding box, and let's increase the size a bit. Let's make this all uniform too. So that's how it's gonna work. It's gonna wrap around the text dynamically around the bounding box, just to get a little bit cleaner look. And we can preview it with our W key right here. So we're looking pretty good to start out. Usually I'm hot swapping with the preview modes. I usually have mine at W, and then screen modes. We got normal, which we're in right now. So like if we put the image out here, we still see the whole entire like canvas, for example. But if we hit, if we're in the preview, it won't show that. And that's basically right here, right here. So let's put that back. This is basically what you'd see when you export the document as a PDF or a JPEG. Next, let's go over character styles and paragraph styles. So right now this doesn't have a paragraph style set, but if we hit the plus icon, it's going to create one for this specific document. Let's call this body. So now with this set, actually I didn't do that for all of them. Okay. Now it's body. Now since nothing on the outside has changed, but if we ever, for example, let's add another page in, create another text box, and we add placeholder text. Right now it's Minion Pro, the default for InDesign. And if we hit the body paragraph style, it's going to create that just like how it did for this one. So it saves us time. But now I'm going to show you what character style is. It's almost like an exception to the rule. So let's make this something completely different. So many fonts to choose from. Let's do this one because it's pretty wild. All right. So right now, this is technically still the same body paragraph style, but if we go highlight this text, create the plus icon, and let's call this the first word, it's now going to be excluded from any changes when it comes to the paragraph style. So if we hit basic paragraph, it makes everything back into Minion Pro because that's the default for InDesign, but our first word stays the same because it's the basically telling InDesign to not change this no matter what the paragraph style is. So that's pretty handy if you know ahead of time certain words or phrases or sentences are going to be not following the status quo. Let's also talk about parent pages. This is good if you want elements to stay consistent between multiple pages within a document. So let's add something, let's call this test, and we're going to make this pretty noticeable. This looks pretty fun. All right, so let's make this pretty big. And if we put this anywhere on the page and go back into our normal pages, it's still going to stay there within both of our pages. This is helpful if you have maybe page numbers, that's pretty good, or different titles up top that are very consistent within each of the pages. And you can create different parent pages. Right now it's A, but you can create A, B, C basically, and then apply those letters to different pages and they'll follow different requirements that you have. I believe if you hold Alt or Shift or Control, Control and Shift will basically unlock the master page element that you had, and it'll basically let you edit within its own instance, because right now this one's still the same, but this one's being changed. This is a very case-by-case scenario, but it's helpful when you need it. So let's delete this page right here. Let's go over a few more things to get started. So right now, this text box is overset, means that it has text that's currently being cut off. If you double click that, we're gonna see the rest of it. Let's get rid of all of this right here because we don't need it. I'll double click and it'll snap back to here. Also, so we do have layers just like Illustrator. They work a little bit differently because between pages you can have the same layer name structure. So let's add a second one there, and let's call this one text. And then we're gonna put our text in there. Let's make sure we get these two. All right, so there, and then let's move our two images here. And let's call this images. And we have text, and we have the images, just like that. And also, like I said, page by page, and it's still gonna be there for this page whenever we do that. Also, let's get rid of this master page element right here. All right, so now that we're back here, also we got links. So whichever elements you bring into InDesign, it'll keep track of all of them. Right now I have a JPEG and a Photoshop file, and I'll give you basic facts based on the sizing, the PPI, names. It's kind of helpful to find these images. If you right click and then you can reveal in whichever source folder you have, that's also kind of helpful. Also, so let's say, for example, you want to edit this image. So we have it in Photoshop right here. And let's just say we wanted to just make it a little bit smaller for some reason and hit OK and save. Now, InDesign is going to recognize that that image has changed, and it's going to give you a little warning. And if you double click that, it's going to change the image to what it was, or what it currently is, which is helpful when you're keeping track, when you're editing assets on the fly. I wish it did it dynamically, but this is fine too. So let's go back and change that. And then we should be good with that. All right, and the image is back together. So now that we have our design, what we're gonna do is we're gonna export this out. So if we hit File and then Export, I already have our exports folder in. So let's call this 2026 Yankees Preview. And we have a lot of different options when it comes to JPEGs. We can do different kinds of PDFs, whether it be if it's intended for print or interactive. With interactive, you get more and more freedom when it comes to different clickable elements, prints. If you do print, you usually go into a printer, and then it usually changes the color space for that. So let's hit the interactive because we're not really giving. Actually, let's do print. Let's actually print this out. So we hit save. And then here is a lot of different options you can choose from. High quality print is good for, I think, home oriented printers. And then, but if you're sending this to an actual, a real printer in like a production shop, you can do press quality. I usually do high quality print. I usually do the 2010 standard, PDFX. Compression, don't really mess with these too much. But if you are sending to a commercial printer, you can add different kind of marks on your designs, depending on what they need. Color bars, bleed marks, crop marks, and then you can also add bleed here. We don't have a bleed on our page, so that's fine. And then the rest are just there for now. A little more complicated. But yeah, we hit export, and then it creates the document. And yeah, there's our flyer, as we forgot to take out the second page. But overall, this is just a basic overview of InDesign. There's a ton of different things I didn't cover, but this is just the basics to really get started with it. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. So like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.